Canada has launched a $27.6 billion tariff strike against the United States. But Ottawa is not collecting $27.6 billion. It is targeting that much American trade, and part of the cost could still reach Canadian businesses and shoppers. So what exactly is being taxed? Why did Canada finally pull the trigger? And could this bring Washington back to the table or push both countries into an even deeper trade war? Beginning at 12:01 a.m. on September 8th, Canada will impose new duties of 15%, 25%, and 50% on more than 700 types of products imported from the United States. Some U.S. steel and aluminum products, furniture, and clothing will face the highest rate of 50%. Cheese, appliances, and selected seafood products are among those facing 25% duties. Certain electronics and tools will be charged at 15%. Canada's existing counter tariffs on American automobiles will also remain in place. This is not a blanket tax on everything from the United States. The rate depends on the individual product and how it is classified at the border. The decision followed the collapse of trade negotiations between Ottawa and Washington. New U.S. tariffs of 50% took effect on $27.6 billion worth of Canadian goods on August 22. Prime Minister Mark Carney said the latest American demands were unacceptable and would have weakened Canadian sovereignty and major industries. Canada offered to remove remaining counter tariffs on steel, aluminum, and automobiles if the United States substantially lowered its own duties. No agreement was reached, and Carney ordered Canada's negotiating team home. Washington then raised the pressure again. President Donald Trump threatened 50% tariffs on Canadian cars, trucks, and automotive parts beginning January 1, 2027. Here is the most important economic detail. Tariffs are not paid by the U.S. government. They are paid by Canadian importers when American goods enter the country. Those businesses can absorb the cost, demand a lower price from the supplier, find a Canadian or international alternative, or pass part of the cost to customers. Ottawa says the list was carefully targeted to reduce demand for American products and protect Canadian producers without causing major shortages or price increases. But some Canadians will still feel the impact when there is no easy substitute for a specialized U.S. product. To limit that damage, the federal government also announced $7.5 billion in new and expanded support for workers and businesses. The package includes assistance for small and medium-sized companies, measures intended to protect cash flow, and support for workers whose jobs or hours could be threatened by the trade conflict. The headline number does not mean Ottawa is handing out $7.5 billion in immediate cash payments. The package can include loans, financing, grants, and employment assistance. The real test will be who qualifies and whether support arrives before companies cut production or lay off workers. Industry Minister Melanie Joly is urging Canadians to buy Canadian, arguing that choosing domestic products can protect jobs and reduce dependence on the United States. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says electricity exports and critical minerals remain available as leverage if the conflict worsens. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has ruled out disrupting oil and gas shipments, warning against measures that could damage Canada's own economy. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is demanding lower federal taxes and the removal of sales tax from Canadian-made vehicles. That pressures the Carney government to defend Canadian industries without making life more expensive at home. This trade war is dangerous because Canada and the United States do not operate as separate economies. Cars, metals, food, machinery, and energy can cross the border several times before reaching customers. A tariff on one side can disrupt workers, factories, and prices on both. The next major date is September 8th, when Canada's counter tariffs begin. After that, watch whether American exporters and politically important states increase pressure on Washington, whether Canadian companies successfully change suppliers, and whether the threat of 50% auto tariffs still takes effect on January 1st. Canada's message is now clear. It will negotiate, but it will not accept a deal at any price. The question is whether this $27.6 billion response creates enough pressure to restart serious talks, or becomes the opening move in a much more costly economic confrontation. What do you think? Is Canada's response strong and necessary, or will both countries end up paying the price? Read the full story at weeklyvoice.com.